Hello there. Welcome to another top 5 favorites. And today I'm sharing with you my top 5 skin tints. Now, skin tint, when you hear that word, I think everybody in their mind comes up with a different definition. And that's because I think every brand of skin tint is a completely different product. So in order to make sure I'm comparing apples to apples, here's the criteria I used for my top 5. Number 1, each one of these basically needed to be called a skin tint or something real close. So one of them is called a tinted hydrator. So I thought that was close enough to include. Number 2, none of these top 5 actually have any SPF in them. And you might think, well, why is that a criteria? Well, in general, most skin tints do not have SPF in them. And so therefore, I think that sometimes people are a little stymied of how they're supposed to wear this, myself included. I figured that out. I'll tell you in a moment how I layer SPF with a skin tint. But the third criteria for a skin tint is basically it needs to have skin-loving ingredients. Now, each one of these 5 has varying levels of those skin-loving ingredients, some a lot more than others. I'll share those along the way. But the final thing with skin tints, the ones that I chose today, they all have coverage. And that is because in my mind, there is no point for me to put a third layer on my skin of something that's not even going to give me any coverage. If I want something that is just super sheer coverage, I'm just going to use a tinted sunscreen. So if you would like me to do a separate video on my favorite tinted sunscreens that I use in that scenario, let me know in the comment section below. But the reason why I say I don't want to do 3 layers is because I still, with these skin tints, I use a little bit of moisture on my face after cleansing, and then I do apply a sunscreen, and then I apply the skin tint. Now, in today's video, I am going to do demos of all 5 of these back to back to back. I'm removing the skin tint in between. So in order to save product, and there's no point in me putting sunscreen on for each of the demos. So I did not apply sunscreen today for each of the demos, but I do normally put sunscreen on right before the skin tint. For today's demos, the only thing that I have on my skin before each one, I apply a little bit of the Dalton Reishi Mushroom Spray. This is the Doll Skin Super Spray, Hyaluronic Spray with Reishi Mushroom. I apply a little bit of that, and then about 3 to 4 drops of the Bare Minerals Skin Rescue. This is a great hydrating serum that sinks into the skin super quickly and doesn't leave my skin oily. So my skin type is a combination skin type. So all of these skin tints that I'm going to share with you work not only for my combination oily skin, but they also will work for dry skin types as well. Some of them might require a little more hydration underneath, and some of them might require a little more setting powder on top if you're oily like I am. And I'll kind of give you those distinctions as we go along. Now, as you probably assumed, I am currently wearing one of these 5 skin tints, so stay tuned to find out which one. And then I will also share what else I put on top, what powder, blush, what my lip combination is as well. Now, all right, now as we jump into these 5 skin tints, I ranked them in order from 5 to 1. Not necessarily from, 5 being my least favorite, 1 being my favorite, although 1 is my favorite, but I ranked them in order of coverage level. So that is where we're going to start with the sheerest one and work our way up to the most coverage. Now, before we get to number 5, though, I have one honorable mention I'm going to put in here, and it is the Bare Minerals Complexion Rescue. And this is the original one. And I really do enjoy this product. It does have SPF, it does have all the skin-loving ingredients, and it does have a tint to it. However, it's not quite as much coverage as I personally want from a skin tint. Also, though, the reason why it didn't make it in the top 5 is I really only can get 4 to 6 hours of wear from this. However, if you are a normal to dry skin person, I think this is a great product and you might be able to get longer wear time out of it. But I did want to mention it here because this was my mom's top favorite. She had more normal to dry skin, and this would have been in the top 5 for her. But because it's not as long wearing on my skin, That's why it didn't make it into this top 5. All right, so now that we have that out of the way, let's get into the top 5. And we're gonna rewind to where I have just a bare skin with just a little bit of moisturizer on. Starting with number 5, the sheerest on the list and actually the most hydrating is the Wet n Wild Tinted Hydrator. Now this is the one that really doesn't say skin tint, but tinted hydrator. I think it's pretty close. This has squalane and hyaluronic acid. Squalane is a great hydrating oil, but don't let that scare you. It actually is very quick absorbing. This comes in 8 shades and I have it, this is the shade medium tan. I just had opened this and I thought it was gonna be too dark, but since I'm wearing a turtleneck, I think we'll pretend it works. And actually it doesn't seem as dark as I thought. Now you'll see that I am applying this one with my fingers. Of all 5 of them, this is the only one that I actually prefer fingers. And I don't know why, but ever since I first tried this, I've always applied it with fingers. And I just feel like because maybe the squalane in there, it does better, I think, with the warmth of your fingers working it into the skin. So obviously you can use a brush, but I just feel like this one works so nicely in with fingers. And I was going to show you a better glimpse of my skin up close. I'll do that in the next 4, but I had quite a lot of kind of splotchiness and some little red spots and things like that. And you can see with just one layer, and I used a large pea size, and look at how nice and even my skin looks. Now I still have a few little spots coming through, a little bit of redness on the nose. This does layer actually really well. So it is one that has buildable, I would say buildable light to light medium coverage. And this one is, even though it's super hydrating, I can still use it on my combination skin, but I will always set it with powder. And when it's set, I would say I get 6 to 8 hours of wear with it before it starts breaking down. Now I'll just take a little bit of this under my eyes. I'm not gonna take all of these up under my lash line. And I do just have a little bit of color corrector on the inner corner of my eyes, but that's it. Okay, so blend it in, and even though it's hydrating, it is not sticky, tacky on the skin. And in fact, you can see it's already set down quite quickly on the skin. And again, I did add a little extra coverage here, kind of in the center of the face. I feel like this one is really good at disguising texture on the skin. So even without powder, I feel like it's blurred the look of my pores. I just think this is a fantastic one. And at the drugstore price of $5.49 to $6.49, depending on where you buy it. So this, in my mind, is one of the best options, even though it only comes in 8 shades, because it is more on the sheer side. It is more forgiving, and I feel like a lot of different skin tones can work with each of the shades in the range. Again, at $5.50 to $6.50, if you've never tried a skin tint, I would encourage you to start with this one and just see what you think. Now, this has no SPF, as I talked about at the beginning. None of these top 5 have any SPF in them. So on my combination skin, what I would do with this, if I'm gonna wear this out and about, is I might do a tiny little hint of moisture, and then I would use my sunscreen. The K-Skin one is a great one. I would use this and then apply this on top because I don't need tons of extra moisture. If you're drier skin type, you might go in with your normal moisturizer, sunscreen, and then apply this and you'll be good. But you can see there the finished look without powder, and I think this is a fantastic option. Okay, I've let my skin calm down for just a minute after removing that other skin tint. I have re-moisturized my face. Let me give you kind of an up-close look at my skin. I do have some lines and some, 11s here. This is my area where I have pores and texture and just some unevenness. I have a few broken capillaries here around the nose. And overall, I just really need some evening out. So that just kind of lets you know kind of what we're starting with. So now going in with number 4 is the Sephora Reveal the Real Skin Tint. And I have just really loved this. Now this says it's a soft, radiant skin tint. That kind of scared me at first, but I actually feel like this gives me a very nice, soft, natural finish. And it is very blurring. It's one of the most blurring of all the ones that I'm going to show you today. Now, this one comes in 20 shades and it retails for $22. I'm looking over here at my cheat sheet here. It is a light to medium buildable coverage, so a little more coverage than the Wet n Wild. And the 20 shades, I personally found it very easy to find my shade. I do feel like they run slightly dark, so that's just one heads up there. And I have heard that some with more pinky, more neutral tones to their skin might have a little more issue. But for me, with more of my yellow undertones, I feel like the shade range has worked well for me. Now, this does have, let me see if I can pronounce this correctly, Tropalum majus flower, which is an anti-aging kind of soothing ingredient. And by the way, for some of these, I had to go on Paula's Choice and I looked up the ingredients in the ingredient list because for Sephora, for this one, Sephora really doesn't brag about any skincare benefits from this, but it does have hydrating ingredients in it and that soothing anti-aging ingredient. The one thing to be cautious about, this does have denatured alcohol in it. It is the 4th ingredient, which I was like, ooh, okay. So this is one that definitely, if you have drier skin, you might need to go in with a little extra hydration, but for me, combo skin, it's like perfect. Now I've combined the shades 120Y with 170O. So this has a little olive tone. This is my combination, kind of that's perfect for me year round. So depending on how much sunless tanner I have, this one I prefer with a brush. I'm going to use the BK Beauty 101 and I'm just going to put this all over. Now this one is one of the most lightweight feeling skin tints and it is buildable, but you can start off with as sheer of coverage as you want. So there is just one very light layer. You can still see a little pinkness right here, but it's already starting to just provide a nice little bit of evening out to my skin. I'm gonna dot it first on my forehead. I'm trying to keep my eyebrows on, so I don't have to keep touching those up, at least in between each try on here. So one layer, and let's add a little extra in the center of the face. So as you can see, I was pressing in the extra coverage on those areas that I wanted more. And I feel like this gives your skin such a nice amount of coverage. Again, it's super lightweight. And because it does have that little bit of alcohol in it, it does seem to set down pretty quickly. And again, I feel like, it does a great job of blurring the pores and the texture. I do still powder with this one, but it does give me 8 to 10 hours of wear, and I can go even beyond that. I'll start getting maybe a little bit of wear down around the center of the face. But all in all, I just have been so impressed with this one, and it's still at a pretty affordable price. And again, the lightweight feel on the face, I think, is just wonderful. And I do just feel like this is a very forgiving formula. Again, kind of blurs the texture, and another one of my top favorites. All All right, time for number 3. We're going back to the drugstore, and it is the Maybelline Superstay 24-hour skin tint. Again, another one that took me a while to try because I thought it was going to be no coverage and way too radiant for my skin. Boy, was I wrong. Now, this is another one that if you have dry skin, you may want to add a little extra moisturizer underneath. This not only contains vitamin C and E, which are really good at brightening your skin and helping with dark spots. There's my dark spot. But it does also have oil controlling ingredients as well as hydrating ingredients. So it's kind of helping to balance out the skin. But that's why for me, who kind of can veer more on the oily skin type, that is why I think this has been such a wonderful option for me personally, because I do feel like I get a full day's wear. I can get 10 hours plus out of this. Of course, I always powder. The one thing though, again, caution with this one, it does have denatured alcohol in it as the 5th ingredient, so that is something to be aware of. Now this comes in 18 shades, and depending on where you buy it, you can pay anywhere from $13.99 to $17.99. What? I know, Ulta is the place that, you know, usually has the highest retail price, but sometimes it will be on sale. Like right now it's $12.49. So you just never know, but that's kind of the price range there. Again, I love how thin the formula is on this. The one thing I hate about the packaging is the dropper that comes on it. You're looking at this going, wait, that's a pump. That is because just invest the little bit of money, buy the pumps off Amazon. I'll link those down below, right below this foundation. It makes all the difference in the world. The pump actually has a little cap. It has a twist lock. It's a really good quality. That makes all the difference. The dropper on the original of how it comes originally, yeah, we could skip that. Okay. Clean BK Beauty 101 brush, again, is my favorite way to apply this. And this, again, is a very thin consistency. It does, because it has that little bit of alcohol in it, which I didn't realize until I was researching for this video. But because of that, it does help it to dry down pretty quickly on the skin. And I mean, it's more of a natural finish, but I would not categorize this as radiant finish, which I am okay with. I think a natural finish is the way to go. You can always add more glow on top, right? And the 2 shades that I have blended here are 110 and 220. And now I'm going to add just a little extra again through the center of the face, pressing this in with my brush. That's one of the reasons why I love this brush. You can take a lightweight formula and just press it in and get more coverage. This is buildable. I think light to medium coverage, maybe on the lighter end of medium. The next 2 that I'm going to show you definitely can get you to medium, even maybe beyond. But this one is pretty close in the coverage of the Sephora one, just maybe a smidge more. And I feel like this one is a little more matte than the Sephora one. Now, I know all of these would look even better if I finished all of my makeup so you could see it with the bronzer and the contour and the blush, but we could be here till next week if I were to do that. And I think my skin would really not be happy with me. So I really wanted this to just be about how the skin looks before adding any other color. So the more monochromatic, the more even, the more one-dimensional the skin looks, that tells you the more coverage there is with that skin tint. So here it is all blended out. You can see we do have a little bit of glow on the skin, and obviously it's only been on for 30 seconds, so it's not completely dried down, but this is a very lightweight one. I feel like this one maybe shows a little more texture until I powder. And then when I powder, I feel like this one really just sets and stays so well through the day. So let me give you an up close look there. And then I may just go ahead, let me just set it with a little bit of powder so you can really get kind of the distinction before and after. So I'm going to use the Honest Beauty Invisible Blurring Powder. This is actually my favorite for, I think, all of these. I use it on a daily basis. So I'm going to just set this side of my face with a little powder. And again, I don't have any concealer on under my eyes, so just ignore that area, but I want you to just see how perfecting. Do you see that? So there's unpowdered, there's powdered, and again, you know, I have pores and large pores and texture here. And once it's powdered down, I just feel like it looks flawless. It feels super lightweight. And the little bit of powder, I did use a loose powder, but I didn't have to use a ton. It's not tacky at all. Love this one. Coming in at number 2 is the LYS Triple Fix Blurring Hydrating Skin Tint Foundation Stick. I think they wanted to include every description that they could possibly fit on that. LYS is a brand that's sold at Sephora, and this retails for $25. It does come in 22 shades. However, I feel like it's lacking a little bit in the fair to light skin tone options. So I kind of had a little trouble because this was the first shade that actually had golden in its tone. So I went back and bought a neutral because this is actually quite dark. This is MG2, and then I have LN6, I believe. So the combination of these two works for me right now. And then in the summertime, I can almost get away with just this one if I have a dark enough sunless tan. That aside, this is the only one of the 5 that is in a very convenient stick form, which I personally love. This has some great ingredients. It has green tea extract, which soothes, hydrates, and reduces redness. Got a lot of redness going on right now for me. It has watermelon seed extract, which is moisture and radiance. And then it has rosehip oil, which is an antioxidant, which has vitamins A, C, and E in it. And it is also a hydrating ingredient. But rosehip, I feel like, does absorb and sink into the skin. So it's not something that sits on the top of the skin. So let's go ahead and apply these. And as I swipe them on, I will talk to you a little bit about, so it looks again like I'm putting on quite a lot, but as I've said before, I have used this on camera before. I'm actually just lightly gliding this on. So with stick foundations, many times I feel like you go through them very quickly, but this one, I don't feel like I am. Like I don't ever have to, you know, twist it up again as I'm applying it to get enough product. So here is the MG2, so you can see the difference. You can see this one's quite peachy, and then this one brings in the little bit of yellow that I personally need for my skin tone. And initially, when I first applied this, I thought, oh, I am not gonna like this because you can feel the oils. You can feel it's a lot more emollient than the others that I applied, but there's no alcohol. It is very hydrating, but let's blend it in and we'll see. For this, I have come to love the Eco Tools. This is the, what is it? The 360 face brush. I think it comes in a set of 3. It's super dense. I love this, and you can see why. I mean, it just blends in everything. I mean, one swirl and it's pushed into the skin. And I really have enjoyed this particular skin tint for those mornings when I'm super far behind and I really need to rush out the door. That in general is why I think a foundation stick is a great option to have. But I have never found another foundation stick that I love like I do this one. I have had a couple of others that have been okay, but I feel like the others just sit on top of the skin. I don't know if it's because to put it in a stick form, they have to use a little more wax. I think there is actually wax in this one, but I've always felt like foundation sticks just sit on my skin and accentuate texture, and it's just not something I've ever loved until I've tried this one. And I mean, I think because it's not a super radiant finish as well, that helps. And I do, of course, powder, but I just think this is a really nice, now right now with one layer, I would say this is light medium. It's not medium, but you can build it up. I'll add just a little more here to the center of the face. And it is a little tricky. I do wish that the shade range was a little more expansive, because it would be nice to just be able to swipe on, you know, one shade. But as you've seen, for the most part, I am pretty used to having to mix two shades anyway. It's just a little trickier with a foundation stick like this. I'm going to use a little bit of this under the eyes here. All right, so there you go, all blended in. And like I did with the last one, let me just show you what it looks like with a little bit of powder on one side. And again, I feel like it's starting to do the work of, you know, blurring imperfections in texture, but it's not quite there yet. And it's still a little bit emollient feeling. So with this one, I think if you have dry skin or drier than me, you'll actually really love this, because it does have those extra hydrating ingredients in it. But I still feel like I get a really good amount of wear. Again, just powdered down, and there you go. A little bit of some radiance here, but then powdered down, I feel like it still looks very natural, very skin-like, and it feels just super lightweight on the skin. Even over here not being powdered, again, it's only been sitting on my skin for 30 seconds, so it's not completely set down. And I don't feel like this one ever fully sets without just a little bit of powder. So you'll continue to feel maybe a little bit of some kind of hydration, a little, I don't want to say tackiness, because it's not sticky tacky, but if you powder down, there's, I mean, it is totally dry, set, you're not getting transfer onto your hands. So another one that I think is just fantastic, and the only one that I have tried in a stick form that I actually love. All right, down to number one, and not only is this number one because it is the fullest coverage, but it is also number one because it is my top favorite of all of these. And you might be surprised, as I was, because I always think of this as foundation, but it is actually a skin tint. This is the RAKUTEN Doll Skin Genius Serum Skin Tint with Reishi Mushroom. This retails for $46, so it is the highest price of all the ones I've shown you today, but I actually feel like you need the least amount of this product. So a little goes a long way with this. It only comes in 10 shades, which I wish it had a greater kind of depth within each tone. There is a good range. So what I mean is there is a good fair and a good dark, deep tone, but within that I do wish there was a little more like cool yellow neutral in each one of those tones. But that aside, for whatever reason, because this is a serum skin tint and it does offer good coverage, but somehow it's able to adapt to a lot of various skin tones within each one of those shades. So that being said, this is by far my favorite, gives the fullest coverage, and it lasts the longest. I do powder with this one. This one is filled with the most amazing ingredients of all of them as well. So this one has reishi mushroom, which is deeply hydrating and detoxifying. It also has vitamin C and E, also antioxidants. It has aloe, which is soothing on the skin, which holy cow, my skin can't wait to feel this on my skin. It's a little, you know, irritated after all that removal. This also has hyaluronic acid, which of course adds hydration and plumps the skin, and it has turmeric in it. It fights inflammation and oxidative stress. So another really great unique ingredient, and of course all of RAKUTEN's products are cruelty-free and clean beauty. So Great ingredients, great packaging on this with the bottle, with the glass bottle and the pump and the lid. And my favorite way to apply this is with this dual-ended sculpting brush. I love to use this smaller end. And as I said, a little goes a long way with this. So you do want to almost like skim the skin with this. And you'll see with just the lightest amount of product, I mean, look at how much coverage I have, and it just makes the skin look perfected, but still natural. So I love a lot of full coverage foundations, but a lot of those can look like you're wearing makeup. This particularly just really does perfect the skin, but yet your skin still looks like skin. I mean, look at that. And this is one that I feel like has the greatest range of its ability to work for those with dry skin types or oily combo. It also has one of the, I think, greatest ranges for ages. My nephew's wife, who lives in humid Georgia, she loves this foundation. She tried it in my first little pink box and she said it lasts so well for her. She only has to use a tiny little bit of that pink powder all over, lasts all day. And then my sister-in-law, her mom in Georgia, myself, my mom even tried it and loved it as well. I've heard from so many of you, all ages and all different skin types and climates, that have really enjoyed this foundation. So I have blended 2 shades as I always do with everything. I have light and tan. And again, I have a little bit of Sunless Tanner on. So I love to have 2 shades in almost every foundation that I purchase if it's something that can work for me summer and winter. And then that way I can always have my perfect shade of foundation anytime I wish. So let me just blend all of this in. And of course you've seen at the beginning of this video, and you'll see at the end, how this looks powdered and with all of my contour and everything on. But just all by itself and freshly applied, we do have a little bit of that glow. It's still sinking in. Once this sets, it does still maintain a little bit of glow, but I feel like it's perfecting on the skin, and especially after powder, I think this just looks and feels so lightweight on the skin. So I know you saw my finished makeup look at the beginning of this video, but now I'll tell you what else I paired with that Dalton Doll Skin Genius Skin Tint. What I used for blush today was the Caloray Blurry Blush in Dope. And then I, of course, used my Dalton Serum Bronzer. It's just such a fast, quick, easy, one-step contour bronzer. And then I used a brand new powder from Dalton. I've been using this off camera, but I haven't been able to share because it wasn't yet available. Now it is. It is this new Yellow Power Brightening Treatment Powder. So just like the pink powder that you know I love, but I could really only use this under my eyes because it has that pink tone. Now they have a yellow one and I use this all over my face. It's so blurring and lightweight. I love it paired with that Skin Tint. And then on my lips, I use this combination Makeup Forever Artist Color Pencil in Wherever Walnut with the Fenty Beauty. This is Blazed Donut. Love this. So that's what I've got on my face, and I will list those products down below along with the other skin tints that I talked about today and the brushes that I used for each one. Now, at the beginning, I was sharing with you how I personally like to layer my skincare products: moisturizer, sunscreen, and then one of these skin tints. I did not share with you 2 of my favorite sunscreens to wear under skin tints. And this is especially with somebody like me with more combination skin. I don't need 3 layers of lots of hydration. So I wanted to share these 2 sunscreens with you just in case you are a combination or oily girl like me and you want to figure out how to layer. So for moisturizer, I use a light bit of moisturizer first. Like I said at the beginning, today I was using a little bit of the Bare Minerals Skin Rescue. I have also really been enjoying one of the new Charlotte Tilbury Magic Water moisturizers. That one's fantastic. But then I will go on top of it with one of these sunscreens, depending on what time of year it is. So at this time of year, I have really been enjoying the K-Skin Maybelline Mineral Sunscreen. This is SPF 30. This is so lightweight. It does not have any coverage. It sinks right in. It makes the skin look like it has a little bit of a glow, but it's not oily, and it does not break down my foundation or skin tints that I put on top. So it doesn't add any extra hydration that I'm going to regret adding later on. Also, one that I fell in love with over the summer, and I'll use this on warmer days when the weather gets warmer. It's the Super Goop, and this is the matte screen mineral sunscreen. This has a slight tint. I don't love the tint on it. It's kind of a little more pinky tone, but it's SPF 40, and it really does provide a nice matte finish to the skin, which then I can go on top of with any of these skin tints. I hope that you found this helpful, and if you have not tried any of these skin tints, hopefully one of these will pique your interest. If you have tried any of these or all of these, I would be curious to know which one is your favorite. Thank you as always so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.